So you're telling me that YouTube has made memberships available for this content on the SSW network?
Yes, they have.
I'm guessing they haven't watched anything here.
That's a little out of bounds.
Okay, that wasn't very nice.
Right,
but,
thank you.
So tell me, first, how much does it cost?
It's $2.99 a month.
$2.99 a month.
Yes,
okay.
yes.
That's not $299.
No, it's not.
Okay.
No.
$2.99.
Correct.
Yes, okay.
Yep.
And what are they getting?
Well, they're going to get things like early access to some of our
Early
videos.
access.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
almost all of your content is live streams.
Well, that's true. You're also going to get some behind the scenes stuff.
Okay, some behind the
and
scenes
emojis.
content.
Let me show you some of these emojis. They're really cool.
Oh, and cute little emojis.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that one. It's like a little drink.
Yep.
So that way when you guys do your goofy ass toasts, people can share them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice. Yep. You're also going to get a membership
Oh,
bag.
and a membership
Yes,
badge.
a membership
Very
badge.
nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. And
Yeah.
is that me?
Yes, that is you.
You're using my image as a membership badge?
We are. We're
Well, I am completely behind this program
Yeah, I
now.
thought you might be,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Listen, if you're watching at home and you've decided that you want to spend $2.99 to support some crazy Star Wars fans,
Right.
well, this is the place to do it.
Thank you.
Not only will you get behind the scenes access
Sure.
and shout outs and
Right. All the
some
good
other
stuff.
stuff,
Yeah.
you're going to get a badge
Right.
with my image.
Yes.
What else could you ask for?
Exactly. So you're supportive of this whole thing.
Oh, yeah, become a member today. Absolutely.
Do it now. Yep, I did it. I did that thing. I was like so excited.
My first time using StreamYard.
Well, welcome to Thursday night ATGLive, your one and only spot, your home for all things Star Wars. Close your week, get close to closing your week with all the Star Wars news of the week, with conversation, with Nick and I just talking Star Wars. And tonight we're going to have a lot of fun because Nick and I are going to be talking Star Wars, but we also want you to talk a little Star Wars. So be prepared. We want to be able to bring you in with your phone calls. No camera needed. We'll be able to take you over a link and be able to just hear your voice. And we're going to want to talk to you a little bit about what we're going to talk about tonight. Nick, what are we talking about tonight?
Well, it's an exciting time, especially for some really crappy people on the internet, but we're going to make their lives miserable too. Kathleen Kennedy has retired. She has moved on from Lucasfilm, and they have handed the reins to you and I individually, yes, and yet somehow together at the same time, because obviously
almost
why would
competitively.
we just
Correct.
Yeah, competitively working together is what we're
Yes.
doing.
Yes.
So tonight we're going to be talking about what our plans are for the next 10 years of our time at the helm of Lucasfilm and Star Wars in particular. So we're going to get into it. We're going to come up with some crazy ideas and maybe talk about some not so crazy ideas that just seem like they would be a good way to go.
Good way to go for sure. Yeah. And yeah, of course we're joking. Kathleen Kennedy has not resigned. I firmly believe that she will be the president of Lucasfilm when I'm like 114 years old. She's still going to be there.
I'm
She's
fine
not
with it.
going anywhere. And you know what? She doesn't have to go. She's doing okay. We're going to do that. We're going to hit the news, and again, we will be putting up the link a little bit later so that you can join us with your thoughts. Do you agree with what Nick and I would do with Star Wars over the next 10 years, or do you have different ideas, better ideas?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure maybe better is probably a lot easier to get to than
It's a
anything
safer
else.
bet.
Yeah. But hey, speaking of bet, Nick, We do a little thing here we call our Star Wars Fantasy Sports Ball. So let me get out this week's results, shall we? Hold on. So this past week, I had moved ahead in the standings by a couple points, but it happened to be Droid Week. And Droid Week this week was going to be 000 from Kelsey Puckett and her Bristol Banthas. I had Chopper, and Nick, you had R2D2. And
the champion.
Look, we knew R2 was going to win. I don't think that's a surprise, but I think what may be a surprise is that it wasn't a runaway landslide. I thought for sure R2 was going to blow me away. I knew 000 was going to be tough. I love that Kelsey went with just like, screw it, I'm going with the guys I love. But look, it was only a 15-point win, Nick. Any thoughts on that?
I am similarly surprised that it was as close as it was, but there's a lot of love for Chopper the Murder Droid out there. And
it really is.
Yeah, as we said, this was a literal murderer's row of droid power and lineup. So, if we're talking about sports ball, if these three are coming at you in somebody's linebacking core, you're going to die. Like there's nothing, nothing good is going to happen. You're paying for it.
Exactly.
So I am happy with my victory this week because I feel like this may be the last little light in the tunnel for me in the rest of the season. We've got some tough weeks for me coming up.
It may well be. And here's the standings as they are after 6 weeks. You are at the top by 10 points. You picked up I had a 5-point lead. You picked up 15. You went there. I still have more wins, but that only counts in a tiebreaker. And poor Kelsey, she's only got 90 points, but I think this may be her week. And
there's
the reason I say that is
stage coming.
Oh yeah, I think she's going to start the press because this week it's Imperials. It's Imperials against Imperials against Imperials. And here's who everybody picked. Kelsey went with maybe my favorite Imperial who was left on the board. Now, keep in mind when we did this, if you picked Darth Vader for Sith, as I did, he was off the board for Imperial. She picked Grand Admiral Thrawn, who is a great pick. I picked Grand Moff Tarkin, which I think is a strong pick. And you picked
Agent Kallus. I did. That was an emotional favorite. That was an emotional pick. But I'm gonna appeal to the younger part of our audience, the Rebels lovers, those that ship, Kalazeb. Like I've got some people out there in my corner, and I'm excited to see this be a closer week than I anticipated. Anyhow,
you know what? I don't want to. I can't say anything because I
not
thought for
my
sure
Milky week yet.
No. But I thought for sure R2 was going to blow up and didn't. So who knows? Who knows?
It's anybody's game. But yeah, Chelsea's easily in the lead. And if you're doing ESPN fantasy sports or fantasy football, it tells you at the beginning of the weekend, this is what you're estimated to get. This is who's projected to win. I think that, she's sitting in a good spot for this one.
100%. Yeah, I think there's a good chance for her this weekend. I don't know. I think like Tarkin is like a classic Imperial though. So
I'm a little bit surprised, and I don't remember why. If we talked about it during the draft, I'm surprised that you didn't pick Krennic for this position.
Because I was going for the votes.
You're going for points.
I'm going for points. I think if you think Imperial, especially if you're Gen X like us, you might just be thinking of the man in the slippers, Grand Moff Tarkin. So, but we shall see. That voting will start on Monday. The week we go through 11 weeks, so we're just past the halfway point. It's a close race between Nick and I, and as we said, we can be pretty confident that Kelsey's going to be coming in hot for the last half of the year. So let's see how that goes. Before we get to our toast, I wanted to mention at the top of the show, we ran our little commercial. We do have super chats now. We do have super thank yous or whatever they're called in the on the YouTubes. And we also have memberships. So if you want to join and get cool emojis, be able to, send us a super chat for however much you like, we guarantee we will get to all super chats during the show. And if you don't want to, that's cool too. Just, share the show, tell people about it. and that's good enough for us. It doesn't change the interaction you'll have with us, but we would love to see you take part, join the show in one way or another. But
and we've got people, let me say this too, we've got people watching all over the place tonight. We've got folks watching on Facebook, TikTok, and not TikTok, Twitter. That's the one I wanted.
Twitter, right.
Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. So wherever you're watching from, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being here. You make our Thursday nights better. Honestly, if nobody tuned in, we would both still be sitting here talking to each other about Star Wars. So
we'd be on a Zoom call away from our families talking about the Star Wars news of the week. So
when you're here, if you're able to comment, be a part of the conversation. Obviously, you can on YouTube. Comment on Facebook. Your comments will show up in the chat. And if you're watching on Twitter, the thing we figured out is if you're watching on your phone, you can't comment. But if you open it up on a browser, like if you happen to be near your laptop or whatever, and you're watching on Twitter, you can comment there too. So we would love to hear from you, and we would love to, bring you into the conversation as we go through the night.
And we will be providing a link pretty soon so that you can join the show and call in after we give you our 10-year plan for Star Wars after the news. But Nick, before we do that, we got to do this. Damn it. I got to extend that just a couple extra seconds because it's always the jam.
Well, that's okay. I noticed, and we talk about it every week about how when the bumpers run, we're both in the background dancing, bobbing our heads. It was apparently 45 seconds ago when you played the bumper for the sports ball thing, when I watched the two of us dancing to that slightly hip hop beat on that one, when I realized just how painfully white we both are.
Yes, it is true. It is true. In fact, maybe one day we should do a show where we just play the music from the bumpers and we could just we'll lose.
Nobody needs that.
We worked very hard to get where we are here on social media.
Make people motion sick or something.
Why ruin it? Nick, you got a toast
funny
for us
that funny that two guys who play in bands can have so little rhythm.
Oh yeah, just because you play bass doesn't mean you can dance. I learned that years ago.
Exactly. I do have a toast for us tonight, and this toast is going to kind of be a recurring theme, certainly through part of the news. I'm toasting to the pirates tonight because today is, in fact, National Talk Like a Pirate Day.
No, is it really?
I hope at some point. Yes. In fact, I believe your father commented at some point on Facebook with a pirate-like comment somewhere.
That makes sense.
Seems on brand. Yeah, seems on brand. So I'm toasting to the pirates. We're going to talk about pirates in the news. Pirates have been a big part of Star Wars, apparently maybe going to become a bigger part of Star Wars. I'm even going to toast to the 1992 Pittsburgh Pirates, who, for those of you remember, the Atlanta Braves had their Game 7 win where Sid Bream, possibly the slowest human being to ever play professional baseball, managed to round third base, score the run, and propel us farther into the playoffs that year. So, yes, I can always bring it back to the Atlanta Braves.
Always bring it back to the Braves,
So I'm toasting to all the pirates out there. So whether you're a Star Wars pirate, whether you're Lando Calrissian, Han Solo, Hondo, any of the new upcoming pirates we're going to meet in Skeleton Crew.
Yeah.
Cheers and happy R Wars.
R. Okay, I know when I watch this again, that's going to be the cringiest moment. And I might even have to clip it out as the cringiest moment ever.
And then we're going to play it as a bumper to interrupt people during the show.
Yeah, we definitely need something like that. We need another one.
Oh no.
So yeah, well, before it gets cringier, we're gonna take a quick break, and we come back, we're gonna hit the news of the week, and then we are going to share with you our vision for if Kathleen Kennedy called us up and said, "You guys run Star Wars, I give up," and we'll be back with more ATG Live.
What's up, my fellow Gen X Star Wars fam? My name is Chris Rhines from Broaxium. You may know me from ATG's Force Connect that I co-hosted with Pete and Nick. Now, I'm the owner and operator of Broaxium Outpost, an online shop for all your action figure and collectibles needs like Star Wars Black Series, G.I. Joe Classified, Star Wars Vintage Collection, Marvel Legends, Star Wars Black Series and Vintage Collection, Transformers Studio Series, Star Wars action figures, Masters of the Universe, and much, much more, including Star Wars action. Alright, I have a lot of Star Wars stuff, I'm just saying. Stop by and check out the store at www.broaxiumoutpost.com. Sign up to become a part of the Bounty Hunters Guild and stay updated on new pre-orders, sales, and exclusive Broaxium content. Find something you like? Use the promo code ATG5 for 5% off your first order. We have Star Wars figures, by the way.
If you need Star Wars stuff, and you do, I know you do. Go to Bro Axiom Outpost, support our friend Chris Ryan. He's just getting the business off the ground. So, hey, if you normally buy at Entertainment Earth or Amazon or maybe even, your local Target, give Chris a shot. Use the code ATG5 and you're going to get 5% off. Follow him on Twitter because he's always running discounts.
He's started putting together some really cool combo packs, and I think we're getting tagged in them, but it's comics and action figures. So if there's, if they're dropping new figures and there's comics that happen to run alongside those same characters, he's putting together some really cool combo packs that you can pick up, which is a great way to get a hold of some figures that you probably already want and pick up some comics that you didn't know you needed.
Exactly. Well put, Nick. Well put. I think you just wrote his new tagline. And Chris, you're welcome to use that if you're watching. Please go ahead and run with that. But we actually there was more news this week than we can cover. We're going to bring you 4 news stories in just a minute, but hang on, and here comes the news. Well, tonight we are diving into some of the biggest news stories of the week in the Star Wars universe. Bad Batch is making a comeback. Skeleton Crew is bringing the pirates back. The next chapter is the final chapter for Cal Kestis. And finally, Donald Glover says he wants to make Star Wars fun again. So let's get to it. Bad Batch continues in Dark Horse Comics. Clone Force 99 is set to embark on a new mission as they return to the pages of Star Wars Comics. Star Wars Newsnet reveals that Dark Horse Comics will launch a 5-issue miniseries titled Star Wars Hyperspace Stories, The Bad Batch Ghost Agents. It's a lot of words, a lot of hyphens, a lot of colons. But that's what it is. Scheduled for release in January of next year, the series is penned by Michael Marisi, who is a former ATG guest, known for his work on Star Wars Hyperspace Stories and Burning Fields, with illustrations by Reese Hannigan and a team of seasoned artists, including Elisabetta D'Amico and Michael Atea. Sorry, Michael, if I mispronounced your name. Set during the Clone Wars, Ghost Agents follows Hunter, Reke, Crosshair, and Tech as they hunt down a mysterious separatist ghost agent who executed a daring heist on Coruscant. The trail leads them to the galaxy's darkest corners where danger lurks at every turn. Marisi, who previously introduced the Bad Batch in Hyperspace Stories number 10, expressed his excitement about returning to the squad, describing them as a 1980s action heroes dropped into the Star Wars universe. Nick, there's your A-Team connection. The first issue will hit comic book stores on January 15th, and I believe you can pre-order right now and or visit darkhorsecomics.com. Nick, this kind of supports one of the things we said about Acolyte, in that the stories that we love will always be told somewhere else. What's your thoughts on this?
Well, we have a very specific mantra and motto and feeling about comic books on this show, and I'm not going to try and run that flag back up the pole tonight, but this is exactly what we said. These stories get to continue. I am thrilled for diehard, hardcore Bad Batch folks who are saying, I miss Bad Batch. I want more Bad Batch. This is the place for it. Of course, my interest was piqued, as you said. Space A-Team has always kind of been what, Bad Batch is for me. I think this falls directly into that wheelhouse. It's obviously a good thing. Anytime we get more content, anytime we get books, video games, things that are going to continue to expand the thing that people love. You may not have loved Bad Batch, but somebody else does, and this is their way to continue to live in those stories. So I'm very excited about it. I'm excited to hear, how the stories go. I don't know that I'll read them, but who knows? Crazier things have happened.
Well, I feel like also, I feel like Bad Batch being kind of that action adventure Star Wars A-Team kind of thing, I think it lends itself nicely to comic books. And, much like Clone Wars told us a little bit more of Anakin's story and what was happening with Ahsoka and, introducing all that, there was a lot going on for Clone Force 99 because we only met them really late in the Clone Wars. And we got a series about them, but it was after the Clone Wars. So let's see them in action. Let's see them at their height. And this is a great way to do it, I think.
It does. And it begs the question, is this where Scar Squadron shows up? I mean, Chris Ryans wants to know. I don't think it is. I think this is the wrong part of the timeline, based on my limited understanding. But I always have to throw that one at Chris when I can.
Yeah. No, but I think, you know, I said it about the series that's taking place on Jakku. And I'll say it about this one. I have every intention of reading it. I probably won't. But
there's a better shot that I'll read that one because our friend Alex Segura is writing on that series, and he's actually going to be on with us next week and tell us about it. So hopefully that will continue to, you know, push my interest in a direction that doesn't usually go.
Well, you know, my 12-year-old loves the Bad Batch, so maybe this is a good way to keep it going for him as well. So that's cool. All right, well, we have yet another Star Wars story from this week, and that is EW has dropped some Skeleton Crew details. Skeleton Crew, the upcoming Disney Plus Star Wars series, is set to make space pirates as a central theme, according to new details revealed by Entertainment Weekly in the fall TV preview issue / website article, which stars Jude Law and will explore the chaotic period after the fall of the Empire and before the rise of the First Order, a time ripe for pirate activity in the galaxy. Writer Christopher Ford, who co-created the series with John Watts, emphasized the importance of space pirates in the story. He noted that while pirates have been a recurring element in the Star Wars universe, Skeleton Crew will place them front and center. He said, quote, "People would call Han Solo a pirate, and he'd be like, how dare you?" Ford said, adding that executive producers Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau were particularly excited to explore this aspect of the galaxy. Among the pirates featured in the series are Gunter, played by Jaleel White, a.k.a. Urkel, for those of us from the 80s and 90s, and Vane, who was a character that we first met in The Mandalorian Season 3, portrayed by Marty Matulis. The first episode of Skeleton Crew will premiere on Disney Plus on December 3rd. Nick, I got to give you your flowers, man. What did you say about Vane? What did you say about him?
Said during Mandalorian Season 3, when that chase happened and Salad the Hutt, you know, crashed and burned or disappeared or whatever he did.
Yep.
He took off, peeled out, and I said, he's going to show up in Skeleton Crew. He's going to be part of the, you know, what's scary to kids? Pirates. Like I said, it's the theme of the night. I just said that's where that character is going to show up again. And I don't get things right very often when I make predictions for Star Wars, but I nailed that one. So I'm taking that victory lap.
Yeah, and you know, and speaking of Pirate Day and pirates in this particular episode, today, according to Production Weekly, this sort of leaked across the internet. Production Weekly has been kind of an interesting thing to watch as a fan of any series that, you know, somebody, especially like Star Wars, that keeps things so close to the vest. Production Weekly dropped or leaked. Well, it's not even leaked. It's just it's you know, what they do is they cover all the. It's not a magazine. It's not writing articles. They just simply list
a trade.
Right. It's a trade publication that lists productions that are happening. And there is a production called Star Wars Pirates, which arrived or just appeared on the listing today. Nick, you know, you had a theory on it that I like. What were you thinking?
Well, we had seen several months ago, there was a Lucasfilm animation employment post for, I believe, a producer of some sort to produce a new animated series. So I was stepping out on a little bit of a limb and saying, based on what's going to happen in Skeleton Crew, based on a new direction where they might be taking part of the Star Wars universe, I could see this new Star Wars Pirates being an animated series. And targeting the kind of same age range and audience that Rebels was pointed at. It was, you know, Bad Batch and Clone Wars maybe was aimed at a little bit older audience. I feel like Rebels was kind of right there in the middle. Of course, I love it. I talk about it all the time. So I think that's going to be what that is. And speaking of pirates, great reminder, who else involved pirates? A good friend, Greg Owinski, and Young Jedi Adventures featured pirates recently. So lots of pirates going on. And also, and I just noticed this because I had the Production Weekly, that page up, right next to where it says Star Wars Pirates, it also says Star Wars New Jedi Order.
Ooh, okay.
On the line immediately next to it.
So that's the Rey movie, right?
That potentially is the Rey movie, which would make sense because that is seemingly close to some form of production.
Interesting. But, you know, I do find it really interesting, too, that Star Wars is leaning into the pirates thing. I think bounty hunters are cool. And I think so. I think at the end of the day, that's kind of what Star Wars needs to do, is sort of lean back into the things that people fell in love with, and it was pirates, and it was the bounty hunters, and yeah, that you do have the Empire and the Jedi and all that exciting and interesting stuff, but pirates is really an interesting place to play. So
to borrow a phrase from the Swifties, Star Wars is in their pirates era, or coming into its pirates
it does
era.
feel like we are coming into,
as long as we're not going to wear those 70s pirates painter caps that the Pittsburgh Pirates wore.
Oh my God, no! Would it be our pirate aura? Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I am sorry. All right, let's get to the next news story before somebody gets hurt. Hold on a second. Cal Kestis is coming to an end. The Star Wars Jedi video game series is heading toward its final chapter, marking the conclusion of the trilogy that began with Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order and continued with Star Wars Jedi Survivor. According to a recent report from Games Radar, publisher EA discussed Respawn Entertainment's plan during an Investor Day presentation, revealing that over 40 million players have experienced the journey of Jedi Knight Cal Kestis across both games. Laura Mealy, not to be confused with Milky, EA's president of entertainment and technology, shared the news, stating Respawn is working hard to bring the final chapter of this thrilling story to players. She highlighted the success of the series, noting its contribution to EA's impressive $5 billion in net bookings from Star Wars titles. While Mealy did not explicitly confirm that the series would end with a third game, it seems likely that this installment will wrap up Cal Kestis' story. Respawn is expected to take full advantage of modern consoles, possibly even developing a new engine for the game. However, fans may have to wait another 3 or 4 years for the game to be released. That is a long time. And also, not mentioned in that story, Jedi Fallen Order. That was Survivor was the last one, right? That's out on your PlayStation 4 now.
Yes,
I think
it is.
Hit this week, right? So now you can play.
Wasn't yesterday, it was tomorrow, and I believe that is on my weekend to download list. So yes, I am excited about that.
Nice.
This is a good thing. I think video games are a tricky thing to announce simply for the fact that they do take so long.
Yeah,
and so it's like when you tell your kids, hey, I think we're going to this place next weekend. And the mistake is you told them the week before, and every day for like 2 weeks, hey, are we going tomorrow? Hey, are we going to, like, they asking you that. So like one of the quick hacks you learn as your kids get older as a parent is don't tell them until it's happening. Like that's why people surprise their kids in the car on the way to Disney World and videotape it, is because I don't want to hear about it for the 6 months leading up to it.
Right.
I'm excited for, a third Cal Kestis game. I love the first one. I have a feeling I will really enjoy the second one.
Yeah.
But it's a long time to wait. So I guess the tease is good. I guess the knowledge that, hey, the story's got somewhere else to go, but it needs to be tempered really quickly with, hey, we're projecting a, 2029 release or whatever it's going to take.
That's such a long way away. Now, I think that there's an opportunity, and I would love to see it. We talked a little bit last night when I was with the Simply Star Wars guys on their show. If they ever did a Kenobi season 2 to get Monahan, what's his first name? I can't remember what it is.
Dominic
Monahan, who plays Cal Kestis.
Cameron.
It's Cameron, right?
Cameron Monahan.
Yeah, Cameron. Yeah, right. Thank you. But it'd be
Dominic
great to
Monaghan's the guy that played Charlie in Lost.
Right, and he was also we just went down a Monahan rabbit hole. But the I think it would be really great to see him in live action, because they don't even, much like Deborah Wilson, they don't do anything to change his appearance. I mean, it's the actor. He's there. It would be great to see him and maybe Obi-Wan on the path, doing something together. I think that would be great. And bring O'Shea back to it too. Oh yeah. Yeah. That would be cool.
Get him in there. I can't think of his character's name right now, but
yeah. Doesn't matter.
But yeah, and that's fun. And Cal is another one of those characters that has a very dedicated group of fans and followers that would just be overjoyed to, get to see that character in live action. I think he would really enjoy doing that as well, just based on what we've seen at press events and Celebration.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think so too. And yeah, let's bring him into the canon for those people that don't play video games. I think that's a missed opportunity, because again, he's just such an interesting character on top of everything else. So, all right, we got one more news story, then we're going to take a quick break. And when we take a break, when we come back, we'll be doing our 10-year plan for Star Wars, because we've got it all figured out. We know how we're going to make the magic happen for Star Wars. If you're listening to this on the podcast afterwards, go to the YouTube thingy and check us out there, and you can find us doing that. But this next spot is from Donald Glover, Lando Calrissian Jr. Donald Glover, known for his portrayal of Lando Calrissian in Solo: A Star Wars Story, recently shared his vision for the character's future in an interview with the Wall Street Journal. Glover emphasized his desire to bring fun back to the Star Wars universe, a quality he feels is currently missing. As a Star Wars fan myself, he says, I think it's important that it needs to be fun. He acknowledged the seriousness that often dominates the franchise, especially in stories involving the Skywalkers. However, he believes Lando offers a unique opportunity to inject some lightheartedness and relatability to the galaxy far, far away. He says, Lando, I think the best part about him is that he's a scoundrel, Glover said, and people can relate to that. The project, initially announced as a Disney Plus series, has since shifted to a feature film with Glover and his brother Steven taking the reins. Despite the lack of updates, Glover's recent comments suggest that his music career winding down may mean that he can soon focus more on bringing his version of Lando to life. Not to be confused with Make America Great Again. Let's make Star Wars fun again. React to that comment first, to make Star Wars fun again, coming from Donald Glover. What are your thoughts?
I think that is a great bellwether statement for the fans that make up the majority of Star Wars fans. You and I are chronically online. You and I are chronically involved in all the minutia of Star Wars that we can. We love it that way. That's how our fandom manifests itself. And Donald Glover loves Star Wars. He grew up with Star Wars. He's talked about it many times. He played Lando in Solo to a fantastic degree, in my opinion. I really loved what he did. But I also think he is a great voice for a more everyday user level of Star Wars fan. And I think if you look at Star Wars from the outside in and tip your toe into Star Wars social media, you go, ooh, gross, no thanks. I think it's a perfectly valid sentiment, and I back him up on that one. Like, yeah, I want to have fun with Star Wars too. I don't want something to show up and automatically we're trying to figure out how to defend it, how to attack it, how to, Star Wars is intended to be fun. So
right,
I'm with it.
Right. Yeah, I definitely think that a Lando show too is the way to do it, right? Because Lando he's all about misadventure on top of everything else, right? And so
Lando is hyperbole for Star Wars.
Yeah, yes, he absolutely is. And I would love to see and I thought Glover did a fantastic job with him in Solo. And yeah, I think Star Wars needs those big movies and something fun. I think, that even if you look at like The Last Jedi, I think that's probably part of the problem with The Last Jedi for some people. While you and I love that movie, and I love it a lot. I love the story of it, but I've said it 100 times. It's not the movie I put in when I'm watching Star Wars. It's not the one I grab off Disney Plus. It's a great movie, but it's not fun. Right? I mean, so let's get back to that kind of high speed, fun action adventure, like the Lego show,
and I really like the decision both by Glover himself and by Lucasfilm to, one, not rush this. He's willing to take his time, and they're willing to still give him time. They haven't written him off and said, look, he's busy. He's not going to do this. Because I think something that's beneficial is for him to have the wisdom to say, hey, I've been pursuing music. Now that I'm winding that down, this is where I want to direct my attention, not something else that's getting part of my attention. And the fact that Lucasfilm is willing to say, yeah, we've been with you from the beginning. All right, now let's start making something happen. That's great. I also think, and we're going to talk about this when we get to my Lucasfilm plans here shortly, I think there's a perfect marketing opportunity to set this up as a bookend for Solo. Solo, a Star Wars story, Lando, a Star Wars story. Bookend them, have that be, we've got 3 trilogies or the 9, the Skywalker saga. We've also got the Han and Lando duology. We've got, it doesn't have to be, and there's going to be another one. Let this be the other half.
Make it a one piece. Yeah, for sure. Yep. I agree with that. Don't set it up as a sequel or to have a sequel or anything like that. So Yeah. Well, cool. Well, so that's the Star Wars news for the week. Thank you so much for hanging out with us for that. And we'll be back in just a minute with more ATG Live. Well, we are back with ATG Live, your Thursday night home for all things Star Wars. Thank you to everybody hanging out with us tonight. We have a big house happening here on YouTube. We got a bunch of people watching over on Twitter. We got some people over on Facebook. So, hey, if you're hanging out with us, thank you so much. Again, we're trying the super chat thing, the memberships thing. You don't have to do it. We're just throwing it out there. We're making it available. If you have $3 in your pocket every month and you're like, you know what, I could buy a coffee, or I could just, throw money at these guys who ramble on every Thursday night. I could do that. Again, if you can, great. If not, totally cool. We're not going to change the show at all as a result. It's just something that's out there. Okay, so Nick.
Yes, sir.
In our sort of fantasy scenario that we've put together here, Kathleen Kennedy, we saw the tweet that I put out this morning. That was a fake tweet. So nobody think that I'm doing anything out of.
Can't believe it hasn't shown up as news at Inside the Magic or somewhere.
Right. Good news, guys. Kathleen Kennedy's resigning.
We did it.
We did it. We win.
Mission accomplished.
So we said, look, if Kathleen Kennedy was to resign and called up Nick and I and said, one of you guys will get the reins, maybe both of you, but I need to hear your plan. What are you going to do with Star Wars for the next 10 years? We decided to put that together. Now, the only real restrictions are we have to continue with things that we know are already in place, which are the only things we know for sure. The only things that have started and are completed, or at least in the works, close to being completed, are Mandalorian and Grogu movie that we know they've started shooting that, and we know Andor 2 is done and coming out next year. Other than that, if you want to cancel movies, go ahead. If you want to extend something, go ahead. So, Nick, I'm going to turn it over to you. Oh, the other thing here is we are going to make it so that you can call in if you want to talk to us about your plans. I'm going to post that link about halfway through this segment, and then when we're done here, if you want to call in, again, we're not going to use your camera. You just call in, give us your thoughts, and we'd love to hear from you as to, what would you do? Or do you want to say, Nick, that idea was freaking awesome? Or Pete, you are out of your goddamn mind. Let's hear from you. We'll post that up in a second. But Nick, I think I'm going to turn the floor over to you if you're ready.
I am ready. And I thought about this, and I know I've told you this a couple of times over the course of the week. This was a more daunting challenge than I initially anticipated when we kind of brainstormed this idea and said, hey, let's do a show about what happens if we take over. What does the next 10 years look like? Right. And I sat down, I made a timeline. I started filling in, like you said, the couple of things that I knew was there. Right. And all of a sudden I went, oh, damn, this is hard.
This is not an easy job.
And I wanted to do things like, well, we'll do one animation, one movie, and one TV show every year. Like, let's just standardize it, like testing. Yeah. But then you start looking at things, you're like, but 2027 is the 50th anniversary of New Hope. So, like, you've got to do special things there.
See, I didn't even think about that in my plan.
And then I started factoring in, like, celebrations. And I didn't even really get to video games and books and comics because there's so much there. And so after I kind of like laid on the floor and cried for a minute because I realized I'm not worthy to be in charge of the thing I love so much, other than my kids. That's different, I guess. I decided to take kind of a broad spectrum approach with kind of some ethos, some ideas, some things that I would want to target under my administration, as it were. And then I'm going to put up just some ideas for some properties that all fall kind of in that animation, movie, TV zone for the most part.
Cool.
But the first thing that I want to talk about is I do want there to be balance. I feel like over the course of the last however many years that we have had Disney Plus,
Yeah.
we have been unbalanced because we had Rise of Skywalker that came out in 2019, and
5 years ago. Wow.
we haven't had a Star Wars movie in 5 years. We have gone chips in on live action television. We've gone, half a pot full of chips in on continuing with animation, both of which are fantastic.
Sure.
But there is something that is missing from a Star Wars experience when you don't get something on the big screen. We know it because we went and saw the re-release of Phantom Menace. We know it because we've gotten to see a couple of the pilots of some of the shows as they were released, in the theater. Your idea about weekly Disney Plus show drops at theaters, that's still gold. That's still money waiting to be, deposited in the bank.
I don't know why they're not doing that.
But the big screen Star Wars experience, I think, is vital to the existence of Star Wars. So I want that to come back, but I do want it to be balanced out with TV shows and animation because those are such important mediums as well. So one of the first things that I would like for my Star Wars administration to do is to balance out what we're making, create some charts, create some color blocking if we need to in a conference room on a wall somewhere, and go, there's a lot of red on here, which means we've got a whole lot of TV coming up. Where do we, balance it out with movies? Where do we balance it out with, some more animation across all eras and age groups as well?
Yep.
So balance is going to be a key part of that. I also think that the quality over quantity thing that we have talked about 100%. Many times.
Yep.
Pace ourselves, take some time and let the creators cook. Let there be room. I've said it before. Give us time to miss Star Wars. I don't feel like I need to have something every 2 weeks. If you give it to me, I will watch it. But like a kid who doesn't know when to stop eating candy and sugar, at some point, I'm just going to feel sick. So give me the opportunity to, detoxify. Give me a chance to go back and rewatch something that I watched one time and I feel like I enjoyed, but didn't spend enough time with it because there was another one coming around the corner.
Right.
So I think it's also okay to, think about the very beginning. Star Wars came out in 1977. Empire came out in 1980 and Jedi came out in 1983.
And that was it. That was what we had.
Movies.
Yep.
And that was what we had.
That's right. And
we knew they were coming at some point, but that was just the way it went. But we have moved, and I know it's gotten easier to make movies on certain levels. Sure. And it's, there are some things that have made it to where they can be cranked out more, but I don't know if we have to feel like we need to do that. So quality over quantity. I also said some singularity with storytellers. Create some cohesion in, if you're going to give somebody a project to work on, there's a benefit in TV shows to having a writer's room, to having multiple directors. I think some of those different styles complemented each other in something like Mandalorian. But I also think it really complements itself when you have something like Andor that has a singular vision behind it and driving it.
Yeah.
Same thing goes for trilogies. And that's a tough one to kind of balance out because I know in the original trilogy, we had different directors and we loved those movies and we got great movies. When we get the prequels, I think, did George direct all 3 of the prequels?
Yeah. George was writer, director, owner.
Right. So that becomes a different thing too. It's not always a help. Sometimes it can be a little bit of a hindrance, but I think creating the ability for those stories and those creators, not only to be in charge, but to map out those stories.
Yep.
To go, hey, I have a fully developed idea. Don't let me do the first part of it and then decide we're not sure how it went. Let's see it through. Sometimes the first act of the movie or the first act of a trilogy is not going to be the strongest one. You've got to develop. You've got to let it continue to grow into what it's going to become. So quality over quantity for me would be a big part of slow down a little bit. Take time to enjoy making Star Wars. Take time to enjoy knowing this is what we get to do. I think balancing the eras is important. I think not forgetting about the original trilogy, not forgetting about the prequel trilogy, but also realizing that High Republic's a big deal. And there's ways to bring those stories forward in not just the print medium, because that's where it has primarily existed other than ATGLive, but give opportunities for the stories and those people that love those stories to also have a balance of what's your part of the Star Wars galaxy that you love. I love, post Return of the Jedi stuff. So I love sequel trilogy and Mando and Ahsoka and that. Awesome. Here's some things that all fall in that category. What are the things that you like? So continuing to have a balance in those eras. And then the other thing is explore new space. Don't be afraid to, the most new out there creative, crazy thing we've had so far has been ATGLive, because it took us to an entirely new part of Star Wars we hadn't been in yet. We've got, the potential promise in real world of the Mangold movie, which is supposed to take us all the way back to the dawn and origins of the Force. That has the potential to be very cool. It takes us somewhere new. So we also need to not be afraid to do that. Yep. So for me, those are kind of the key guiding principles that I would want to come into this administration with.
I'll buy
looking
it.
At,
I like all of it, actually. Yeah.
Having balance, quality over quantity. I think there's some things that we could do from a PR standpoint that would be a great improvement. Put some eggs into, balancing our baskets out a little bit with how we promote stuff. Sometimes I feel like, and it's weird because promoting TV shows or promoting streaming TV shows, even more than a cable show, is not the same thing as promoting a big blockbuster movie. That's going to be different. You don't get Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, KFC tie-ins for The Mandalorian on Disney Plus, but you're going to get that for a movie that's coming out in the summertime or the winter. So I would love to see PR, make some adjustments, do some more of that broadcasting approach to getting these stories out in front of people who grew up with Star Wars, your age and my age, and even a little bit older, going, oh yeah, I remember Star Wars. I saw a commercial for that on, Monday Night Football the other week. I need to check that thing out. I think we've gotten away from a little bit of that. And that may be due to some of the social media and instant reaction environment that we live in.
Yep. No, and to your point too, I would agree. I think, there's no reason why they can't do a PR blitz for a TV show like they do for a movie. There's no reason why, when Game of Thrones goes out there, everybody's, everybody knows that it was hearing the characters and seeing them and everything. So, and KG is right. Hollywood has been playing it super safe lately. So
it's a tough environment, to be sure. So those are kind of the guiding principles. And then what I decided to do also is I still had to kind of throw out some, some Hail Marys, some hoop dreams, some whatever. So I whipped up a little bit of a picture for us. These are just some things, like you said before, some of this is stuff that exists out there. Andor season 2, it's out there. It's pretty close to being done. The Rey movie, seemingly close to in production in some way. Ahsoka season 2, we kind of assume it's there, but we don't know. But that's something that I would like to see my administration put out there. I've got the ATGLive on here. Here's what I would love to see us do with the ATGLive. I would like to see a Disney Plus film for the ATGLive. Continue this story for the people who love the ATGLive, who wanted to see, where this went. I was fine with kind of the way it ended. It was a little bit pseudo Sopranos, write your own ending. This is where they went from here. But if you really wanted to put that story out there, make a film and release it directly to Disney Plus. Back in the day, we got straight to VHS tapes. I think this medium actually increases the quality of that a whole lot. So make a film, let Leslie Headland control it. Let her be in charge of it and say, hey, give us the rest of this story and do it in an hour 45 or 2 hours and put it on Disney Plus. Which is contrary to me saying, hey, we should put Star Wars back in the movie theater. But I don't know if it would make the money it needs to go to the theater because it needs broad audience.
Well, I mean, Netflix makes money on their movies. So
that's true.
It makes sense.
That's true. And they put some of them in theaters too for brief periods of time. So I guess that could swing either way. Mandalorian and Grogu, of course, is already out there. The Lando series we talked about, or the Lando movie, I want that. That's got to keep going. A couple of my other, not necessarily that big of a swing, but Vision season 3. I love what Visions 1 and 2 has done. Let's have more Visions. So we're going to do Visions 3, Visions 4 even. Like, it's a great way to bring in so much creativity, so many other uncharted. This is our Star Wars What If. The Marvel version of What If is Visions for me. Kenobi 2, that's just a personal something that I want. It seems like money in the bank. We said that last week. If you called Ewan right now and said, hey, we're doing it, he'd be in. He'd be, when do I get my lightsaber?
I feel like he is already. I feel like, he's too Star Wars active right now to be not working he's somewhere there behind the scenes. This animated picture in the middle, of course, I want other animation, but I have talked for a long time about I want some Star Wars animation with the original trilogy characters. If we set it between
5 and 6, if we set it, between 4 and 5, give me some original trilogy character stories. I love the idea of doing original trilogy characters in that Clone Wars style of animation. I think that would be great. I also had an idea, and this is very specific, but for the 50th anniversary of New Hope coming out 2027, why don't we, using the original audio, do an animated version of New Hope? The movie, top to bottom, kind of like they did with those little YouTube short series. I forget what their Galaxy of Adventure or whatever it was. Put that out there, but do it as a feature-length movie. Give it just as a fun one-off. This is a thing to celebrate the 50th anniversary. That could be fun. And then the only other thing I had on that graphic, of course, is my man Rian Johnson. We need his trilogy. Over the course of my 10 years, the 10 years I'm going to do this, we're going to make that trilogy. We're going to do it every 2 years. We're going to spread them out. You're going to know what's coming. And we're just going to let the man make Star Wars because he gets Star Wars. And I think he's really good at it.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And I think there's you picked up on a couple things that I did not. And I think there's a couple things in mind that you'll also go, oh yeah, I should have thought of that. But at the same time, I think not surprisingly, there's a lot of similarities between your plans and mine. But before we get to our plans, if you don't mind, we have a caller, somebody we haven't spoke to in a little bit. Let's welcome Eric. Eric, welcome to the show. How are you, bud?
Have you been paying your tithes to the Church of Zillowism?
Yeah, every week, man. I never miss putting my money in the Zillow Beast bucket for sure.
That's good to know. But yes, the conversation is about if we were the progenitors, the leaders of Lucasfilm, right?
Correct.
Well, you already know I want my Jackson series with Antonio Banderas.
Yep.
But more importantly, if the phase that we're in is like we're doing live action shows, you need to understand that you can't just throw a bunch of money at something and expect it's going to resonate with the audience and that it's going to be something that they're going to keep coming back to. So 100%. I think investing in something that is middle grade as far as budget and giving yourself limitations, but still being creative and just focusing on stories that are going to grip people is going to what's going to revitalize the attention that you want, because ultimately this is a business.
Well, and I think that's an excellent point. And I think if you look all the way back to 1977, George Lucas had a very limited budget and he went over and he had to make it work. And what did we do? We're driving past a cardboard table in the parking lot with a ping pong table on a Jeep with battleship parts on it. Like, you make it work. If you give them a smaller budget, if you give a creator and say, hey, this is what we can do, they're going to figure out how to make it work. And a lot of times I think where you're headed, Eric, is it ends up being better because you have to put more heart and soul into it. You have to sweat over it a little bit more. It's not all just there on demand. Oh, I want 12-headed laser swords. Okay, great. Yeah. Snap your fingers. There it is.
But I also think that the budget should also drive creativity and decisions. And I saw something today. I've seen a lot of things recently about people saying, there's no reason why there can't be a second season of ATGLive. It was successful with a certain group of fans, or some people loved it. Some people, the reality is it has to make money. It has to. And so you have to find a way to do it cost effectively or it's not going to work. I mean, the entertainment business is more show business than it has ever been before. And so the risk taking is not there like it used to be as well. So
yeah, like, for sure. One of my favorite sci-fi movies is District 9, and that was made for like $50 million.
Yep.
And it just shows like all the effects are like really good. Like I still think that it hold up even from something that came out like 2009.
Yep.
And it just shows like just focus on story, give your people that are working on it, give them time to breathe, and don't crunch time them. Like spend a lot of time actually developing the script, because it's very hard to make something that is great with limited time. And I think that's something that Lucasfilm unfortunately hasn't realized. Keep in mind, I love almost everything they've done.
Yep.
But what I can say is that I think they're just trying to the foot is like glued to the gas pedal too much.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I do think it was a net benefit for them to have a gap from making more movies, because I think just one a year, like, you can run into some issues.
Yep, for sure. Yep.
And you know, I like what I like. I'm someone that is like generally positive about almost anything, like Marvel, like almost everything that they put out. I'm like, yeah, well, cool. I'm even someone that likes Secret Invasion, and people think I'm like horrible for that.
See,
but,
that we're gonna hang up on you with that kind of stuff.
But I realize, even though I enjoy it, it's not the best product they can put out. Those are two different things.
Yep. Well, cool, Eric. We're going to take a quick break. Thank you for calling back in, buddy. Good to see you. Good to hear from you again. And we'll talk to you soon. Honest to Claude, listen to it when you can, where you can.
Zillow Gang.
Zillow Gang is always there. We're going to be back in a minute with my pitch for 10 years of Star Wars after this break from our sponsors.
What's up, my fellow Gen X Star Wars fam? My name is Chris Rhines from Broaxium. You may know me from ATG's Force Connect that I co-hosted with Pete and Nick. Now, I'm the owner and operator of Broaxium Outpost, an online shop for all your action figure and collectibles needs like Star Wars Black Series, G.I. Joe Classified, Star Wars Vintage Collection, Marvel Legends, Star Wars Black Series and Vintage Collection, Transformers Studio Series, Star Wars action figures, Masters of the Universe, and much, much more, including Star Wars action. Alright, I have a lot of Star Wars stuff, I'm just saying. Stop by and check out the store at www.broaxiumoutpost.com. Sign up to become a part of the Bounty Hunters Guild and stay updated on new pre-orders, sales, and exclusive Broaxium content. Find something you like? Use the promo code ATG5 for 5% off your first order. We have Star Wars figures, by the way.
And we're back, and thank you very much for calling in. Eric, we just put the link again in the chat. We want to hear from you. We are talking about what will we do if we were to take over Star Wars. Nick?
Yes, I did. I told you. We're going to get balance. We're going to get quality over quantity. We're going to look at our errors. We're going to give creators time to create. I went with kind of a broader view. I got really overwhelmed trying to put a calendar full of things on 10 years, which turns out it's longer than you think it is. But that was just the first part of this. The other half of this is you have a plan, and you have also come up with a plan. So we're now going to put we as the sharks are going to pass it over to you and let you Shark Tank us on your 10 years of Lucasfilm.
So thank you. And Nick, you had a lot of sort of thought behind the why, and I kind of put a little bit more of an approach to the what, but there's a method to the madness of it. And I felt like this was my one chance, now that Kathleen has given us the reins, to be Kathleen as she was on that investor day in November 2020, which where people literally lost their minds. Our friend Scotty from Bombad Cast just like screaming at all things coming. So I have a year by year plan. And let me share that with you all here. Hold on a second. Let me pull that up. See if I can hit the right buttons here on the screen. Yes, there we go. Okay. Starting in 2025. So January 1st, I'll tell you the first thing we're going to do. And
I'm already on board. I'm
going to make Around the Galaxy or ATGLive, either one or two, some variant thereof, the official Star Wars Fan Talkshow. And not just because, hey, we are the best show out there. And yeah, I'll say it. Bring it on. Come on. But because Star Wars needs that. Star Wars sorely misses and does not recognize how important the Star Wars show was. The show with Carboni,
Andy,
and Andy
Gutierrez.
Was such an important show, not just because it was fun and it was something to look forward to, but it kind of controlled the news. It controlled the tone. Right now, Star Wars Conversation is owned by us. It's owned by Star Wars Theories. It's owned by Geeks and Gamers. It's owned by Star Wars Explained. Star Wars has a YouTube channel that's basically just clips and some of their behind the scenes stuff. So
and that's no shade to Kristen Baver and This Week in Star Wars, because it's great, but it's not all the time. It's a different. Yeah, it's gone. It was a different thing than what, Andy
But
and
even bring
Anthony
that back,
did.
I would be happy with
Yeah,
that. But they need to take control of the
that's right.
Star Wars noise that's out there. So, yeah, look, we're ready. We have the graphics ready. Just give us a call. We'll take it on.
Yep.
We're going to get Andor, the final season in 2025. I'm also going to put out another Young Jedi Adventures season in 2025 because I think it's important to keep that group there, and I want to give Greg Iwinski some work. The other thing that I'm going to launch next year is Star Wars Legends, the animated series. And this is
Ooh.
going to take some of the stuff that the people who feel like their Star Wars was now which is now Legends and decanonized. I own that as a fan, and you do. I mean, people who love that love that. Let's give it to them in the form of Star Wars Legends, the animated series. Give us some Mara Jade and Luke Skywalker story. Take them straight from the books and give us an animated series that gives us some of those stories in that format. So that's just year
Hey,
one, Nick. Yeah.
I just want to tell you,
Yeah.
and you're not gonna be able to see this. There it is.
Yeah.
Straight from the man himself, Greg
Yeah.
Iwinski, season 3. He's on
Yeah.
board.
All
He's
right.
on
So
board.
we got Greg on it. Okay, good. So he's gonna, if he keeps watching, he's gonna like some of the stuff I got coming down. So that's 2025. It's still,
There's a
you'll
cool out
note,
shipyard story coming in here somewhere.
that's right. No movies in 2025. But 2026, we know we're going to get The Mandalorian and Grogu. So we'll keep that as our marquee event of 2026. We're going to bring you a second season of Star Wars Legends, the animated series. We're going to commit to multiple seasons when we do things. And we'll find different stories and maybe even have some fun with the Around the Galaxy, the official Star Wars Fan Talkshow. Tell us which stories you want to hear or want to see, and we'll put them together in animated form. Again, animation is a much better bet. The cost is not as high by any
I want the
means.
one where Luke falls in love with the girl who's trapped in the computer and
Nick, we'll do that one for you. We'll put that one together. And we're also going to have Ahsoka, the final season. It's only going to be a 2-season run. But the thing here is it's going to tie directly to The Mandalorian and Grogu. In fact, I haven't decided yet if it's going to come out before Mando and Grogu or after. But the connection will be there. It's going to tie all those stories together in both the theatrical experience and the final season of Ahsoka. You'll note only 3 things coming out that year. So this is my plan for 26.
like it.
27 things get a little bit fun, a little bit different,
Ooh.
a little bit big idea. And when you said Lando, a Star Wars story, I laughed because that's what I had on my
there
screen.
it is.
Boom. Let's make it happen. And yes, let's make it a direct sort of connection to what we saw of Lando in Solo, but let's make it its own standalone movie. That's kind of where I'm at.
Yep.
I'm going to give you your 3rd season of Star Wars Legends because I know that will be a very popular show, and Carson Teva leading Rangers of the New Republic. This show is going to be a limited
excited
series.
for this.
It's going to be a limited series, a 1-season series. We're going to commit to that. It's going to be a beginning and end. Since it's the only live action other than the movie, it's going to be a 12-episode series, and it's going to make that connection between the end of Mandalorian and Grogu and the beginning of The Force Awakens. And that's the job of that show. And Young Jedi Adventures Season 4 will also hit in 2027. But we're still going. We're only 3 years into my plan. 2028, we're going to thin things out a little bit more because now that we're going into the theaters with a major tentpole, we're going to go in with The New Jedi Order starring Daisy Ridley, and it's going to be the thing that we focus on in 2028. We're going to do the Burger King tie-ins. We're going to do the whole thing. We're going to go full in on a major Star Wars movie coming out. The other thing that we're going to do is we're going to launch season 1 of Chronicles of the High Republic. And I'm debating whether we're going to go animated or live action. I'm feeling like we're going to go animated because I feel like the audience for High Republic is still not there. And I do feel some of the best Star Wars stories, Clone Wars, Rebels, are told in animation. So let's do the service to the High Republic stories and let's do it all in animation. So That's 28. Big year because it's going to be the Rey movie, the one everybody's waiting
Huge.
for.
Yep.
So
And I like that you've isolated it that way to put the attention on it. And that goes back to what KG just said. Better overall with PR. Let the focus for your Lucasfilm PR that year. All New Jedi Order all the time. Happy Meals, tennis shoes, T-shirts.
Yep.
Emerald, pistachios, whatever it is. Label it up. Let's go.
Exclusives in EW, the whole thing.
Yep.
29. Here's the one that we've all been waiting for. Solo 2 will finally happen.
Wow.
And Sean Levy, the guy who just did Deadpool and Wolverine, is the perfect guy to make Solo 2 happen. He has that sort of sensibility. He's not quite as out there as the Lego directors, Frank Miller and doesn't
Chris
matter.
Lord.
I can't remember. Right. No, the guys
Lord
who did but let's give Sean Levy Solo 2. Let's close that story. And Lando can be right in the middle. And yes, so we're going to make Solo 2 happen. We're also going to give you season 2 of the Chronicles of High Republic. That's what 29 is going to be. You'll note that we are being very conservative with the amount of content, just like you were saying, Nick. Make Star Wars special, right? Yeah. There'll probably be a Lego show here or there. Yep, but that's where we're going with that. All right, we're hitting about the halfway point here in 2030, and this is the next big announcement. Not only are we giving the trilogy to Rian Johnson, we're giving him 3 movies, and they're going to be episode 10, 11, and 12, and it's going to be all him. It's not going to be one of these one-off, and then, hey, let's see if JJ wants to. Who's the new Taika Waititi? You want to do a movie? Yeah, go ahead. Sure. No, it's Rian Johnson's trilogy, episode 10, 11, and 12, and it's going to come out in 2030. We're going to keep that High Republic thing going because we've committed to it. We're not just going to throw it in for one season. We're going all in. So that will be the big announcement of 2030. 2031, I'm going to launch a brand new live action series because we will have gone several years without a live action series if Chronicles of High Republic is animated. And it's going to be called Kyber and Beskar, and it is the story of Tar Vizsla, the original Jedi Mandalorian. And it's going to be epic. It could be Game of Thrones vibes. Exactly. Maybe if Benioff and Weiss want to come back, we'll take them. But it's going to be that kind of thing. It's going to be a 2-season. Again, we know it's going to be 2 seasons. It's going to be 24 episodes. And it is going to have a beginning. It's going to have an end. And we're going to get all of those episodes in 2031? No, we're going to get season 1 of 2. Only season 1 of 2. I'm sorry. Yeah, I read that as 1 and 2. 1 of 2. Gotcha. Yep. Okay. And we're going to have mythosaurs. We're going to have the whole thing. It's going to be huge. It's going to be huge. Huge. People are going to love it. So that's going to be your 2031. No movie this year, but because there's no movie, this epic show is going to have the attention and gravitas of our movie release for that year. And again, we've committed to a total of 5 seasons of Chronicles of the High Republic. So our 4th one will hit in 2031. The final season of Chronicles of the High Republic will hit in 2032, and episode 11 will finally hit from Rian Johnson. 2 years later, we're going to do the 2-year spacing. 2033, 1 year before the end of my reign, we will have our final season of Kyber and Beskar. It's going to be, again, as epic, but again, a planned ending. It's going to tell a full story. And like you said about an animated movie or a movie for Disney Plus, I'm going to create an animated movie for Disney Plus called A Droid Story, which they had pitched last year. And there they are, right. R5D4 and R2D2. I don't know what the movie's going to be about, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun Star Wars in animated form. And it's going to be created for Disney Plus. And again, much like Netflix, it'll be in theaters for a week and a half. Ooh, and here's one. Yeah. Here's a curveball as I invade your ideas. Get Pixar to do it. Love it. Yep. Okay. Yep. An animated movie for Pixar by Pixar for Disney Plus. I love that. Pixar Star Wars movie. Okay. That's a winner right there. And that's because we've now we've slowed up on the Young Jedi Adventures. Yep. There's a way to bring the kids back in because we're going to need that. And then in the final year, my final year before I retire as president of Lucasfilm, I'm going out big and I'm going out focused. I am going to just release the last Star Wars movie in the numbered series, Rian Johnson's last Star Wars movie. Episode 12 will be the sole focus of 2034. We'll do all kinds of fun things on Disney Plus in the year leading up to it, but that will be our primary focus, and that will be my Star Wars run. That's much like Kathleen has said she wants to go out on a high note. That's the high note that I'm going to go out on. This trilogy, which will close out the numbered Star Wars series, will finally bring the whole fandom back together. They'll all be on board, and that'll be it. And then I'll resign and I'll live in I don't know where the hell I'm going to live, but it won't be.
It won't matter. You'll be like 29 years old at that point, and just beginning your life. But you've had such a rousing success. So here's what I want to talk about with your plan that you just pitched, which was fantastic. I want to watch everything you put up there. I'm on board for every bit of it. Here's what I love. My thing was quality over quantity. Spread it out. Take your time. Give us time to miss Star Wars. You 1000% leaned into that way more than I did. Like, I even felt like putting up that one graphic that I did that was super busy, had all of this going on. Yeah. Like, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's 10 things. If that was one a year, that'd be great. But I also talked about, and there's this, and there's that, and there's this other thing. Like, I have given in and caved, even against my own better judgment, to the whole, like, don't do too much. Yeah. But I'm also feeling like I've got to have things. Like, I got panicky going. And that's why I think this intimidated me, looking at a 10-year timeline, writing those years down on a notepad, because that's how my life works. I'm still old enough. I need a legal pad and a pen. I wrote down those 10 years, and I started going, okay, I've got stuff here and here. Look at all this empty space. And I started to panic. But what you did, and what I love, and what I felt like I have asked for with Star Wars, is spread it out. You even kind of like started up and then tailed down. Like, you start out like it's busy the first couple of years, but then we're like 2 a year, 2 a year, 2 a year. Yeah. It's brilliant. And I think that's what Star Wars could benefit from in the real world, not just in our made up, we get to be in charge of it thing. Yeah. I love that. I really think that's great.
Well, cool. Yeah, no, I think that is important. And I think because of the fact too, and you've said it before, one of the things that we often forget is that there's so much backlog that you don't need to have something all the time. Right. If I really need to watch Andor in 2028, I'll go watch it, and there's still going to be books. There's still going to be video games. There's still going to be comics. There's still going to be stories being told. And yeah, I imagine there'll probably be the occasional Lego show thrown in there and the special and things like that. But really building this so that Star Wars feels special again. And again, the other thing that I think is really important is committing to what you're going to do. Going in and saying, we're going to do 2 seasons of this show, like they did with Andor. And that worked out really well. We're going to do 5 seasons of the Chronicles of the High Republic, and we're doing it. And if 4 people watch it, we're doing it. This is what
I'll give you a great other example of that. I saw somebody tweet, I think it was this morning, somebody tweeted that today was the 20th anniversary of the debut of Lost.
Oh, wow.
When Lost started, the first 2.5, if not first 3 seasons of Lost, like everybody else, I was hooked. It was brilliant. I loved how they jumped back and forth, all of that kind of stuff. And then at some point, because Lost didn't have a plan, and, all, deference to those that created it, did a bunch of hard work and great job, they didn't know how to land that plane, pun kind of intended. So that's what we've needed. And going forward with, we saw it happen with Deadwood, which is one of my favorite TV shows of all time. And it got a cancellation. It wasn't that the creators didn't know what to do. It got a cancellation. Having firm plans, 2 seasons, 4 seasons, not an open-ended, if it's still getting ratings, we'll keep going and see how long we can milk it. Those are the ones that end up tailing off. Those are the ones that end up being, Willie Mays late in his career, aimless in the outfield, hoping he's going to catch that ball. You want your heroes to go out on top. You want your heroes to win. And that's no different for shows or series or anything that's going to happen. So I love that you also put those constraints on there to go, this is going to be two things. Carson Teva, I want that series. So that's at the very tip top of my list of things I want in real life Star Wars. Yeah. But make it 12, and that's what it's going to be. And it's going to do this one specific thing. It's going to fill in this one specific time. That's what it should be. And I love that.
Excellent. Well, hey, Kathleen, if you're watching, give us a call. Our DMs are open. We're more than happy to share this.
Noted user Kathleen Kennedy, hit us up in our DMs.
Oh yeah, she's a patron. She's one of our only. She's only a $3 patron, but whatever.
We're not ungrateful. Thanks.
Yeah, we appreciate it very much, Kathleen. Thank you. No, but seriously, like if this is the kind of thing that hopefully they're having conversations about. And I don't know anybody who would say, maybe Chris Ryan's, but I don't know anybody who would say, yeah, I don't have enough Star Wars or I'm not, it's not going to change your enjoyment of it if suddenly there's less of it and if there's more of it. And so, or if there's better versions of it. Yeah. But well, we're not getting a lot of calls in, and that's okay. You all just think we're both brilliant, and you have nothing to add, and that's fine.
Can't improve on genius. So
I mean, it's true. It is true. The other thing that I'll go back to one more time is the need for a Star Wars run show. There needs to be a Star Wars run YouTube /podcast.
That's okay.
That comes from Lucasfilm. So,
and I'll do this one for Matt. The thing that I didn't put in my pitch is the Aaron Sorkin Star Wars series, the Imperial Senate, a la the West Wing. I mean, Andor is kind of that, but we could lean even more into the walk and talks or the, Yoda floating chair, hover and talks, whatever we need. I am currently rereading the book about the history of the West Wing that my great co-host and friend sent to me as a gift earlier this last week. And I mean, why can't we do that with Star Wars? Make a show that's that epic, that's that inspiring, that just says, holy crap, here we are. So yeah, the thing I didn't put in there that I'm always advocating for is give me an Aaron Sorkin Star Wars. Let's go.
Yes, for sure. For sure. Well, Nick, this has been a fun show, a great show. Lots of fun hanging out with a lot of people in the chat. If you're on Twitter, thank you for hanging out with us on Twitter. We'd love to hear from you. So feel free to come on over to the YouTube at any point and add your comments so that we can see them. But Nick, who's our guest next week? We have a guest next week.
Our guest next week is, that's right, we have somebody next week. Our guest next week is our friend Alex Segura. Nice. Alex wrote the Poe Dameron Freefall novel, which came out, it's been 4 or 5 years ago now.
Yeah, it's been a while.
I feel like that was during pandemic, actually, because I interviewed him for Podcast of the Wills right when that book came out, and it was the YA novel about Poe Dameron. Great book, great author. He's written comic books. He's written a whole bunch of stuff, and he is the author of the Jakku comic book series that you were talking about earlier at the top of the show. And so he's going to be on to talk about writing that and everything else he's going on. So we're excited to hang out with Alex next week.
That is great, and I'll make sure that I have this ready for you.
We're going back to Jakku. That's where.
No, we can't go back to Jakku.
Jakku. Yep.
So
perfect.
Well, good. Well, Nick, this has been a ton of fun. I'm sure there'll be more Star Wars news this upcoming week. Lots of things happening. Happy Pirate Day to you and yours, West X-Wing. That's funny. I love that. So, Nick, may the Force be with you.
Our ways.
Just one more round, friend, then homeward bound, friend. Don't forget me in your dreams. Just one more song, friend, and then so long, friend. The nights get shorter, it seems. Just one more rhyme, friend. Yes, it's a crime, friend. But you know time, friend. Time can fly. So it's good night, friend. Good night, but not goodbye.